Hello, welcome to Code with Shashank, and in today's tutorial we will be going to build a basic calculator. I have opened an empty folder in Visual Studio Code and I will be creating an index.html file, CSS file and a JavaScript file. Let's start off with index.html file. I'll create a boiler template and give it a title of calculator, and I'll create a div with the ID of root, and let's give it a heading of simple calculator, and let's create a div with another ID container and another div with the ID of results container, and inside results container create another div with an ID of symbol, and next to it create another div with an ID of result, and inside container create a div with ID of other button container, and inside this create a button with the attribute of data val is equals to just C, small letter C, and inside this button just add a text of C. It is to clear button. Next to it create another div with the ID of button container, and inside this create another div with the ID of num container. It will be going to contain all the number buttons, and create a button with the attribute data val is equals to a number starting from 0 with the class btn, and inside the text goes something like a number starting from 0, and I want it to be done 10 times. And you can see button with data val attribute and a class attribute with continuous numbers has appeared. Now if you didn't understand what I did, you can check out the description. There I have given a link to Visual Studio Code HTML Snippets, and you can learn many shortcuts from there. Now I'll be just rearranging all these buttons to standard calculator type, and create another button with the attribute of data val is equals to and with the class button btn, and give it is equals to, and besides num container create another div with the ID of symbol container, which will contain all the symbol buttons, and inside this create a button with the data val is equals to empty string for now, and with the class btn I want to do this 4 times, and the first button will be a divide button, the second button will be multiplication button, and the third button will be minus, and the fourth one will be plus in the data val / for divide, asterisk for multiply, and minus for subtraction, and plus for addition. This is it. Let's link our CSS file. Go to head and add a CSS link / and self close this tab. Let's go to style.css and select all elements. Give it a margin of 0, padding of 0, and box sizing of border box. Let's select heading. Let's align that to center. Give it a margin bottom of 10% and font family to sans serif. I'll not be using any custom font in this project. You can do that if you like. Let's select root. Let's move that above heading and give it a height of 100 view height and a width of 100%. And let's select container and give it a max width of 500 pixels. Give it a width of 100%. Background color of 2E and a margin of auto to align it to center. And let's move further and select results container and give it a background color of background color of black. Give it a padding of 10 pixels to top and bottom and 30 pixels to left and right. The text color should be white and a width of 100%. Let's move further and select symbol. Give it a width of 100%. Font size be 24 pixels and a height of 20%. Let's select results and give it a height of 80%, font size of 48 pixels and give it a over scroll X of scroll and over scroll Y of hidden. Let's give it a line height of 90 pixels so that it aligns little down. At last, give it a font family of Roboto. Let's select results and symbol and give it a text align of right so that the text aligns to the right like a standard calculator. Let's move further and select other button container and position of relative, padding of 30 pixels all around, left of, let's calculate left, that is 75% minus 40 pixels and width to be of calculate 25% plus 40 pixels. And select all the button whose parent is other button container and give it a width of 100%, that is to match its parent. Let's check out how our website till now looks like. I'll start it with the live server and it looks pretty ugly. I have not given an ID to the heading. Let's give it an ID of heading, and we forgot to give results container a height of 140 pixels. Let's move further and select num container and give it a display of grid, a grid template columns to repeat three times in each row and a width of auto. Let's see, and you can see only 3 buttons are aligned in one row inside num container. And let's give it a gap, a column gap of 16 pixels and a row gap of 16 pixels. And let's give it a width of 75%. Let's select symbol container and give it a display of flex and flex direction of column. Let's actually select the button container and give it a display of flex. Let's come back to symbol container, give it a width of 25% and a justify content space between. Let's give it a margin left of 16 pixels And let's just give a padding to this button container so that it doesn't stick to the corner of it. Let's give it a padding of top 0, right 30 pixels, bottom 50 pixels, and right again 30 pixels. I haven't given it a class of button. Let's style all the button. Give it a background color of 269 FE6, a border of 0, a font size of 1.4 rem, and a padding of top and bottom 12 pixels, left and right of 22 pixels, and text color to be white, and a cursor of pointer. And let's add a transition to all of 0.2 seconds is in out. Let's add a hover effect to button. Whenever we hover over it, I want the background color to be almost same as this color, but not exactly this color. Let's just move slightly to this color, and there we go. And you can see this space over here. It would be nice if equal button could take up this place. And let's just give it an ID of equals and select it over here in CSS. Grid column started from 2 and grid column end and ended at 4. So the UI of the calculator looks pretty good. And now let's bring life to this calculator by adding some programming. I'll select all the button from this element by saying document.query selector all, and select all the elements with class button. And let's also store results. We have given it a ID of results, and let's also results area and give it symbol area, and document.query selector, select an element with the ID symbol. Let's move further and add click event listener for all this button. I'll be using an array method called for each. This will take an anonymous function which takes a parameter called button, and for that I want to add event listener depending upon the button type. If it is a number or a symbol or a clear button or a equals button, depending upon that I want to add an event listener. Now let's just store attribute of all the button which we added over here, this data val attribute, and from that we'll recognize what button is it. To get that attribute, you just use the method called get attribute and pass in an argument of what attribute you want to get. In this case it is data val, and now we will check what type of button it is. Now we will be using something called as regular expressions, and regular expression is added by adding 2 forward slashes and writing that expression in between this. Now what is regular expressions? Regular expressions are used for pattern recognition and to check if a bunch of characters has specific sequence. Now first we will check if the attribute is a number, and we can check if it is number by just adding a backslash and a D. This expression will match all the string which has number in it, and we will add a method called test to return a boolean depending upon this attribute has a number or not, and we will pass the string to which we want to compare, that is attribute, and add event listener of click. I will start off with anonymous function because I want to pass this attribute. The function that I will be using is numClickHandler and pass this attribute, and else if it is not number, we will check if it is a symbol by again using regular expressions to check if it is plus, minus, forward slash or a multiplication. Now these characters mean something else in a regular expression, so we need to escape it by adding backslash to all this, and we want this to be true only if it has plus, or if it has minus, or if it has forward slash, or if it has a asterisk, and this symbol means or. And let's test it with this attribute and add a event listener to that button. The event listener is click, and give it an anonymous function and sim click handler and pass the attribute. Now let's check if it is clear button. Now this doesn't require any regular expression because there is only one character, and let's add a button dot add event listener of click and clear click the handler. Now this doesn't require an anonymous function because I don't want to pass any argument. Else if it is is equals to symbol, obviously it will be a is equal to symbol, but I will just safe check it. I want to add an event listener of click to equal clicked handler, and here also I don't want to pass any argument. Let's define all these functions. I'll start off with numClickHandler. I will use an arrow function. Let's just define some variables of num1 to be an empty string, and a num2 also to be an empty string, and a symbol variable that is also an empty string. And if the symbol is equal to an empty string, only then I want to, and this takes an argument of number. Only if the symbol is an empty string, I want to add this to num1, add this number to num1. I'm not adding it, but just concatenating the string to num1. Else I want to concatenate it to num2, and after that I will update result to that number. Same goes here. And let's define this function update result. This takes a parameter of a result, and let's just select results area dot inner text is equals to res. And that's all for numClickHandler. Let's go ahead and define simClickHandler, and this takes a parameter, and I want to update the symbol to the symbol I have pressed, and also display it in symbol area element is equals to sim. And I want to make it a little bit more specific by updating the symbol. If symbol is triple equals to a forward slash, I want to update the sim to be this symbol, and else if symbol triple equals to this asterisk, I want the sim to be this multiplication symbol. And that's all. Let's see if it works. Now it doesn't work because here is a typo. This is not results, it's result. And yeah, don't forget to add this script to HTML by adding a script tag and an src and giving it a path. Now there is an error because we haven't defined these functions. Let's just simply define it. And let's also define this function. Now here there is a typo in CSS as well. The number we type is over here. And let's add some logic to clear clicked handler, and I'll just reset this value to what it was by default, and also clear results area dot inner text and a symbol area dot inner text to be an empty string. That's all for this function. And let's define equal clicked handler. Now here is all the main logic going in this app. I will use switch case for that. Switch symbol, and if the value is plus, I want to do something, and before I do something I'll define some variables called n1, n2 and res. The value of n1 will be parse float num1. It simply means I want to convert this num1 string to a floating value, and same goes with the num2, parse float num2 and a res to be an empty string for now. Now I want to update res. If it is plus, I want to add n1 plus n2 and then break out of it. And if the case of symbol is minus, I want res to be n1 minus n2 and break. And if the case of symbol is asterisk, that is multiplication, I want the res to be n1 multiplied by n2 and then break. And if the case is a forward slash, that is a divide, I want to check if n2, if it is equal to 0 or not. If it is not equal to 0, then we are good to divide, or else anything divided by 0 is an error. We will just throw an error, n1 divided by n2. Else we want the res to be a string saying error, and if none of these cases match, I want the res to be num1 itself. Let's update the value, update results as the res, and I also want to reset the symbol to be an empty string, num1 to be an empty string, num2 to be an empty string, and symbol area dot inner text to be an empty string, and if it is not an error, if res not equals to error, I want the num1 to be res. Now let's see if this works. 85 plus 15 is equals to 100, and this works. You can of course go ahead and try to improve this calculator. And that's all for today's video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more interesting tutorials like this one.